Graham, 1 year and 1 day into the job.
Yep.
What would you say are the key successes so far?
I think there's a wide range, really. I think the council feels more confident, feels like we're doing the right things, and we know we're doing the right things. And the feedback I get from citizens, from community groups that I've met, is that the services are getting better. So I think all of that's really important, but I think the reputation of the council is improving as well. So I'm now getting much stronger feedback from Department for Communities and Local Government, for example, the government department that sponsors the council, or has the biggest role. You know, they say that we're looking confident, we're doing the right things, and they're getting increasingly confident that we can take on the functions of the Development Corporation, for example. So I think that there's a whole range, and you know, if you take it right down to frontline services, I think the streets are cleaner, actually. And on the back of our streets being clean, I've been able to persuade the Highways Agency to clean up the A13. And one of the best comments I've had was from a resident in Tilbury. We had a public meeting in Tilbury. They talked about the A13 and the A1089 as being the big problems. We talked about the Highways Agency, and they came to me and said, it's now clean. So I think Thurrock as a council is beginning to punch at its weight, possibly beginning to go above our weight. So I think we're having the right influence. We're about to announce some good education results at Key Stage 2. Again, rapid improvement. So I think those things that are important to people, that we've said are our priorities, are beginning to come through. So I think some real successes.
Because you inherited quite a lot of things, didn't you? You had to have emergency budgets and things like that. How was it? How did you grasp those?
And a huge improvement agenda from the improvement board that have been there. The budget is all about strong management. You've got to have a good system. You've got to know what you're spending, when you're spending it on, and all of that is very basic. But actually, we didn't have the confidence in our systems. So members didn't have confidence in the numbers they were being given. We now have got a good, strong top team in the finance department, and they're imposing good rigour, good discipline, and we now have systems that tell us what our budget is, how much we've spent. And we maintain, coming on budget last year was a fantastic achievement, given that we've taken £4 million out in the year and £9 million going into the year. So some real big changes in the budget, and we've delivered and we've repaired the reserves. So we've gone from 2 million reserves to 5 million reserves, which means that we can actually deal with a crisis should it arise. Whereas we'd run out of road. So if there had been a crisis, we didn't have enough budget. I think we've actually repaired the balance sheet. We've got the council to a position where we're now confident about the numbers, and we're delivering on budget. All of which should happen. You should expect that from good systems. We now have good enough systems to allow us to do that.
And you restructured here at the top level.
Yeah, in the middle of restructuring at the top level in terms of the senior management team. And that's really about making sure we've got the right capacity and the right services together. I've talked a lot over the last year about maintaining stability at the top of the organisation, because we've had too much churn. I'm the 6th chief exec in 5 years. There have been 5 monitoring officers, 3 directors of finance, etc. And actually this is about getting the right team in place. The last year we have had complete stability. So we've got rid of a number of interims, we've secured people on permanent contracts. What I'm now doing is making sure the team is the right shape for the next stage. And actually the last year has been fascinating in getting the council doing what it should be doing. What we now need to do is continue to raise our aspirations and do things to really improve the lives of local people.
You mentioned local people, you did a lot of ward walks.
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Lots, absolutely lots. And my view is to understand how you want to take a community forward, you need to understand its history. And the ward walks are great ways of getting that local knowledge in a really short time. I've done that not only with local councillors, but only this morning I spent 2 hours going around Purfleet with some of the local activists and community representatives, and that just gives you a different dimension. Too often I found that services weren't good enough on the ground. So one I've always been critical of, actually since my interview for the job, is grounds maintenance on the housing estates. It wasn't good enough. We've done a lot of reviews during the year. We've worked out that actually to get the service we need to put more money into it, we need to have more people doing it. The members have agreed to increase the budget going into this year. We're now spending probably another £300,000 a year from tenants' rents on their environment, and it's looking better. So we're seeing a problem, finding out what the solution is, seeing that being implemented, now seeing the standards improving. One area I went to today, it hadn't improved, and I will be taking that with the department, and they need to raise the game. One of the issues for me is senior managers don't spend enough time in the community, seeing the outcome of their services and the outputs, and that's something I'm really trying to encourage, because it works. Members get a better feel, the community get a better feel for what they're paying for, and we get a better understanding of those local issues.
You mentioned housing. You made a bold statement regarding Morrison's about shaping up and shipping out.
Yep.
How's that going?
It's going well. We've got a good action plan in place. We've taken a number of steps to improve the reporting mechanisms to get Morrison's and Vertex working together with the council. So all that's all great. What I don't yet hear is the service is better. So yeah, the structures are in place. I've said it will take us till September to get those structures right. If you look at tenant satisfaction, we were running at 95% plus on housing repairs until last August. Since then we've been running at 90%-ish. Actually, I need tenant satisfaction back up to 95% and above, and that's about people that have had a repair done. So that's the real test for me. You know, when residents are happy with the service they're getting, then we can say we're satisfied with the service. Right now, we've got the ingredients in place, we don't have the service being delivered to the right standard yet. And Morrison's are aware of that, and I'm talking to them at MD level. They know what's expected of them. They are confident they can deliver. You know, they have to do their part as well.
So we've looked at this period in 2010 to 2011.
Yeah.
Looking on to the next year, what are the objectives?
I think the biggest one has to be to get the regeneration agenda right, because we have the integration of the Development Corporation, merger back into the council, of the planning function, which is relatively easy to accommodate, but also the delivery of those big regeneration schemes. So the completion of High House Production Park, you know, we've got the Royal Opera House building, great. We've relocated 30 jobs from Stratford to Thurrock, great, but actually they were occupied, and that's not the big outcome. We've got the National Skills Academy being built now, and I went past that today, and there's all sorts of RSJs being bolted together. So, you know, in the next 18 months we will open the National Skills Academy for Creative and Cultural Skills. That's great, that will give us some training opportunities. We then need to build some artist studios and some business units, and then we have a new cluster for creative and cultural industries that we've never had in Thurrock before. And that will be in Purfleet with the anchor name of the Royal Opera House. That's a great story. So we've got to make sure we've got the capacity to make sure that gets delivered whilst the Development Corporation is being wound up. So that and the Purfleet Regeneration Scheme and, you know, the community hospital in Grays and the learning campus in Grays, we've got to make sure we get those delivered. That's the big agenda, I think.
Going back to education, is there a fear? I don't get a feeling there's a lot of love in the room between the head teachers of the senior schools and the council. And it looks as if, you know, with the academy's agenda, that they're slowly drifting away. Isn't that a bit of a sad indictment on the borough?
No, I understand the angle, if you like. I actually think that the head teachers are very supportive of the educational support that they get from the education department, but that the relationships haven't been good between them and the council. So we're trying to repair the relationship. We're talking to them much more. There was a whole series of engagement meetings between portfolio holder and director and the head teachers, and that's gone a long way to repair that. The important thing is the outcome for the children that are being educated. And, you know, right now we are seeing improvements in educational attainment at GCSE and at Key Stage 2, so at the end of primary school. So, you know, my sense is we repair the relationship as well as we can, but actually we've got to carry on providing really good school support. And I think it's when you look at projects like the Family Intervention Project and what that does for some of the most deprived or the most troubled families, some of the biggest problems, and we're beginning to get some educational attainment out of that. I've been down to see some of the travellers' sites, for example, and the big message is getting the children into school because education is their way into affluence in the future. And actually we're seeing some much better educational outcomes for those children. That's what we've got to make sure we're targeting, and I think that the relationship then will come out of that.
Changing tack again, some people can't get to their business meetings in Thurrock, or some people can't turn up in time for interviews because of Junction 30 and the bridge. What role does the council have in discussions regarding that?
I'd like to compare and contrast a year ago with now, if you like, because the leader of the council, John Kent, and I have been working with the LEP, the Local Enterprise Partnership, which covers Essex, Kent, East Sussex, Medway, Southend and Thurrock. And the bit that binds all of us is that bit of the motorway that goes between sort of Junction 2, Junction 28, and some of those councils have been talking about a new river crossing as being the solution. Actually, in our view, and this is now the view of the Local Enterprise Partnership, the first priority is to get the existing crossing flowing freely, so free flow tolling, so number plate recognition. The second priority is to get investment in Junction 3031 and get that up to the maximum capacity. and that actually allows the London Gateway Port, for example, and Port of Tilbury expansion and Lakeside expansion. So we need that junction invested in. And then, if there's a need, we should then look potentially at additional river crossings. But actually those first two are the real priorities for us. So we've taken the lead on transport across the LEP. We're talking to the Department of Transport, to the Highways Agency. The Chief Executive of the Highways Agency actually has been out to Thurrock twice in the last 6 months, has a much better understanding of the issues, and has dealt with not only litter on the A13, which was a big issue, but also the investment in Junction 3031. So we're now working with Department of Transport, with DP World, to look at that need. We know that's our priority. We have to get Junction 30 sorted out.
If somebody sits at the, for example, local development framework, the meetings, the reports, etc., there's a real, you see a lot of organisations coming here want to do business in the borough. Yeah. There's a real opportunity, isn't there? And this sort of, there's many golden opportunities. It's crucial that the borough doesn't miss out on it. Yeah,
I mean, it's a hugely exciting agenda, actually. That's the bit that you think about the future, and you think Thurrock now, add 20,000 homes, add 20,000 new jobs. Actually, this place could be much more vibrant than it is. And so two parts of that, really. I think one is making sure we capture those opportunities. So what's going to come off the back of DP World and London Gateway, what's going to come off the back of Port of Tilbury expansion. We've got some big regeneration sites that don't exist in the east of London. So we need to maximise the value of those and get the developers. And that's the thing that we're now putting together. I suppose the other really important issue is that we make sure those jobs go to local people. And my target is that the managers in London Gateway Port in 20 years' time live in or came from Thurrock. If we get all the local people getting all the lower grade jobs and all the managers have come from Chelmsford or Colchester, then we will have failed in that regeneration. You know, it may well be that people choose to move from Thurrock to live in those areas, but actually I want this year's generation of school pupils to be given the education training, to get the qualifications, to get those higher paid jobs. And that's what we've got to make sure we've got the processes in place for. And things like the National Skills Academy, and I repeat, the National Skills Academy for Creative and Cultural, that will make a difference. That will allow people to access jobs that they couldn't access before. So that's the key challenge, I think. It's the so what question. So we're going to do all this regeneration, so what? Are we going to import people and they're going to get the jobs, or are we going to make sure there are jobs for local people as well? And that's the key criteria.